Hello, I'm Bob Gow. I will be narrating this 2009 DVD. It is made from old 16mm movies of hunting and fishing trips on the upper Gatineau River in Quebec. My father shot these scenes between 1938, when I was 10 years old, until 1944. I hope you enjoy these views of the past. Pierre Sendy, the head guide of our group, was born north of here on Green Lake in 1880. The first day we went to Clearwater Lake for lake trout fishing, and the second day we began to prepare for the trip of 26 miles up the river. The freighter canoe would pull our other canoes 3 miles up the flat water to the Big Island Rapids, which are now called Serpent Rapids. The canoes were landed and everything had to be carried round. The logs which were in the rapids at this point were all marked with an E or a G. After carrying the canoes and supplies around, we stopped for lunch. Then, with a portage around Trinity Rapids, we continued up flat water to Mishomas. This was Pierre's home at this time. His daughters and his wife. This house was built in 1900 by Philip Chaussee, and it was now Pierre's home. Above Pike Rapids, the river becomes very fast, and the guides needed to be able to pole the canoes in most of this water. By evening, it had started to rain, and when we landed at the portage for Fox Lake, there was a small cabin. Due to the rainy conditions, we stayed there on the river for the night. The guides generally opted for the tents, which are much warmer than the cabin. Fox Lake had a good supply of what I would call brook trout, and we had no problem getting plenty to eat. Since we had no way of saving things, we kept only what we could eat. This is a family of loons which was living on the lake. It did not take long for the guides to have a comfortable place to eat and to clean up after lunches. All the guides were good cooks. On the fourth day upriver, Noe Cindy had run out of chewing tobacco, and Jim had run out of cigarettes, so they headed back for the club, which was the nearest supply. Pierre took Dad and I over to another lake where we found a mother and baby moose. This was a beaver stick which Pierre found for me to take back to school. At that time, we considered beavers an endangered species and were little seen in the United States. Starting back down the river proved to be a great deal faster than coming up. The 12 miles or so of rapids were great places for canoe races. During our 6 days north of the club, we had seen no one except for Pierre's family. The club was a welcome sight, though we soon had to pack and head for home. The one truck on the road, and we were headed back to the boat which took us down Basketon Lake. This was a toy canoe, which Paddy Chaussee had made. Our last stop in Canada was at the fort at Prescott, across the way from Ogdensburg. In 1929 or 1930, a group of sportsmen from Pennsylvania leased an area of about 20 lakes from the Quebec government. They built the clubhouse and several cabins on the Gatineau River. In 1939, my father, Miller Gow, Ed Link, and Carlton Whitaker purchased these buildings and assumed